Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The airlock hissed open, revealing the gleaming interior of Orbital Medical Station Alpha. Michael stepped through, his boots magnetizing to the metal floor with a soft thunk. The sterile scent of recycled air filled his nostrils as he took in his new home for the foreseeable future. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Michael," a melodious voice called out. Michael turned and felt his breath catch in his throat. Standing before him was the most striking woman he'd ever laid eyes on. Her skin was a rich, vibrant blue that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. Curves in all the right places were accentuated by her form-fitting medical uniform. But it was her eyes that truly captivated him, deep pools of violet that sparkled with intelligence and warmth. "I'm Rin, Chief Medical Officer," she said, extending a delicate blue hand. "I hope you're ready for some cosmic adventures." Michael realized he was staring and quickly grasped her hand, hoping she wouldn't notice the slight tremor in his fingers. "Thank you. I'm, ready for anything." Rin's lips curved into a knowing smile. "We'll see about that, Doctor. Follow me. I'll show you to your quarters." As they made their way through the winding corridors, Michael found himself mesmerized by the graceful sway of Rin's hips. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. He was here to work, not ogle his new colleague no matter how attractive she might be. "So, Michael," Rin said over her shoulder, "what made you leave Earth for this tin can in the sky?" "I needed a change," he replied, quickening his pace to walk beside her. "After years in the ER, I was looking for a new challenge." Rin chuckled. "Well, you've certainly come to the right place. We get all sorts up here. Everything from routine checkups to full-blown alien parasitic infections." "Sounds exciting," Michael said, trying to keep his eyes on her face and not let them wander elsewhere. "Oh, it is," Rin agreed. "Never a dull moment. Though I have to warn you, the social scene leaves something to be desired. Hope you're not expecting wild parties every weekend." Michael laughed. "I think I'll manage. I'm more of a quiet night and kind of guy anyway." "Is that so?" Rin's violet eyes sparkled mischievously. "Well, if you ever want company for one of those quiet nights, my door's always open." Before Michael could formulate a response, they arrived at his quarters. Rin keyed in a code, and the door slid open with a soft whoosh. "Here we are. Home sweet home," she said. "Get settled in and report to Med Bay in an hour. We've got a busy day ahead." As she turned to leave, Michael blurted out, "Rin, I thank you for the warm welcome." She paused, looking back at him with an unreadable expression. "My pleasure, Michael. I have a feeling you're going to fit in just fine around here." With that, she was gone, leaving Michael alone with his racing thoughts and a nagging suspicion that his time on this station was going to be far more eventful than he'd bargained for. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Michael threw himself into his work, determined to prove his worth and not let his growing attraction to Rin interfere with his duties. But it was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the electricity that seemed to crackle between them whenever they were in close proximity. One particularly hectic day found them working side by side in the operating theater, frantically trying to save the life of a Centaurian diplomat who'd suffered a severe allergic reaction to Earth cuisine. "Scalpel," Michael barked, his forehead beaded with sweat. Rin slapped the instrument into his outstretched hand, her fingers brushing against his palm for a fraction longer than necessary. "You know, Michael, I've always admired a man who knows how to handle his tools." Michael nearly fumbled the scalpel, caught off guard by her suggestive tone. He glanced up, meeting her gaze over their surgical masks. Was she flirting with him, or just trying to lighten the mood? "Focus, Doctor," he muttered, as much to himself as to her. "We've got a life to save here." Rin's eyes crinkled with amusement. Oh, I'm very focused. On multiple things at once, in fact. The operation stretched on for hours, a delicate dance of precision and teamwork. By the time they finally closed up the patient, both doctors were exhausted but exhilarated. "Nice work in there," Michael said as they scrubbed out. "You've got steady hands." Rin raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you have no idea just how steady they can be, doctor." Michael felt heat creeping up his neck. "Rin, we shouldn't." "Shouldn't what?" she asked innocently, stepping closer. "I'm just complimenting a colleague on a job well done." The air between them felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. Michael found himself leaning in, drawn by some inexorable force. The spell was broken by the shrill beep of Rin's communicator. She sighed, stepping back. "Duty calls, but this conversation isn't over, Michael." As she sauntered away, Michael slumped against the sink, his heart pounding. What was he getting himself into? Days turned into weeks, and the tension between Michael and Rin continued to build. They maintained their professionalism during working hours, but stolen glances and accidental touches became increasingly common. Michael found himself looking forward to their shared shifts with a mixture of anticipation and dread. One night, as they were finishing up a particularly grueling shift in the med bay, Rin cornered Michael in the supply closet. "Michael," she said, her voice low and husky, "have you ever thought about what could happen between two people from different species?" Michael's mouth went dry. He was acutely aware of how close she was standing, the warmth radiating from her blue skin. I try not to think about that sort of thing at work." Rin's lips curved into a predatory smile. "And what about after work?" Before Michael could respond, the station's alarm system blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the closet in an eerie glow. "All medical personnel report to the main bay immediately," a computerized voice announced. "This is not a drill." Rin cursed under her breath. "To be continued," she said, giving Michael a meaningful look before rushing out. As he followed her, Michael's mind raced. He'd come to this station looking for a new challenge, a chance to push his medical skills to the limit. But he was quickly realizing that the biggest challenge he faced might have nothing to do with medicine at all. The chaos in the med bay snapped Michael back to reality. A shuttle carrying delegates from various alien races had experienced a catastrophic system failure, leaving dozens injured and in critical condition. "Michael, I need you on bed 3, Rin shouted over the cacophony of beeping monitors and pained cries. "We've got a Tralaxian with severe plasma burns." For the next several hours, Michael lost himself in the work. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, treating injuries he'd only ever read about in xenobiology textbooks. Through it all, he was acutely aware of Rin's presence, her calm voice directing the medical team like a conductor leading an orchestra. As the crisis finally began to abate, Michael found himself working alongside Rin on a particularly tricky case, a Vorlix with multiple compound fractures in its exoskeleton. "Careful," Rin murmured, her face inches from his as they both leaned over the patient. "One wrong move and we could shatter the entire carapace." Michael nodded, hyper-aware of her proximity. He could smell the faint, exotic scent of her skin, something like jasmine and stardust. "Focus," he chided himself. "Lives are at stake." As if sensing his inner turmoil, Rin's eyes met his over their surgical masks. For a moment, the chaos of the med bay faded away, and it was just the two of them, lost in each other's gaze. The spell was broken by a wet cracking sound. They both looked down to see that the Vorlix's exoskeleton had begun to knit itself back together, the accelerated healing process already taking effect. "Well," Rin said, a note of disappointment in her voice, "I guess our services are no longer required here." As they stepped back from the bed, Michael found himself reluctant to put distance between them. Rin, She held up a hand, cutting him off. Not now, Michael. We still have patients to attend to, but later, we should talk. Michael nodded, watching as she moved off to the next bed. His mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, desire, professionalism, curiosity, and a growing sense that he was standing on the precipice of something life-changing. As the night wore on and the med bay gradually quieted, Michael found himself stealing glances at Rin whenever he could. She moved with a grace that seemed almost supernatural, her blue skin gleaming under the harsh medical lights. More than once, he caught her looking back at him, her violet eyes filled with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. Finally, as the station's day cycle began to brighten the corridors, the last of the critical patients were stabilized. Michael slumped against a wall, exhaustion hitting him like a physical force. "Quite a night, huh?" Rin's voice startled him. She leaned against the wall next to him, close enough that he could feel the heat of her body. "Yeah," Michael agreed, his voice hoarse from hours of barking orders. "I've never seen anything like it." Rin turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "You handled yourself well. I'm impressed." "Thanks," Michael said, feeling a flush of pride at her words. "You were amazing too, the way you coordinated everything." She waved off the compliment. "Just doing my job. But Michael, there's something I wanted to ask you." His heart rate picked up. "Oh." Rin took a deep breath as if steeling herself. "Earlier, in the supply closet, I asked if you'd ever thought about what could happen between two people from different species." Michael swallowed hard. "I remember." "Well," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "have you?" The air between them seemed to crackle with tension. Michael knew he was standing at a crossroads. The professional part of him screamed to back away, to maintain the boundaries between colleagues. But another part, a part that had been growing stronger with each passing day, urged him to take the leap. Before he could respond, the station's intercom crackled to life. "Attention all medical personnel. Debriefing in conference room A in 10 minutes. Attendance is mandatory." Rin closed her eyes, a look of frustration flashing across her face. When she opened them again, her professional mask was back in place. "We'd better go." "But Michael, this conversation isn't over." As they made their way to the conference room, Michael's mind raced. He'd come to this station looking for a new challenge, a chance to push his medical skills to the limit. But he was quickly realizing that the biggest challenge he faced might have nothing to do with medicine at all. The debriefing dragged on for what felt like hours. Michael found it hard to focus, his gaze constantly drawn to Rin. She sat across the table from him, her posture perfect, nodding at all the right moments as the station's commander droned on about protocols and incident reports. At one point, Rin's eyes met his, and she gave him a small, secret smile that sent a jolt of electricity through his body. Michael quickly looked down at his data pad, pretending to take notes while his mind wandered to dangerous territory. What would it be like to run his fingers through her hair, to trace the contours of her blue skin, to taste her lips and see if they were as sweet as they looked? "Dr. Michael?" The commander's voice snapped him back to reality. "Do you have anything to add about the Tralaxians' treatment?" Michael cleared his throat, frantically searching his memory for the relevant details. Yes. The plasma burns were more severe than we initially thought, but we managed to stabilize the patient using a modified regeneration protocol." As he spoke, he could feel Rin's eyes on him. When he dared to glance her way, he saw approval and something else. Admiration? Desire? It was hard to tell, but it made his pulse quicken all the same. Finally, mercifully, the debriefing ended. As the room cleared out, Michael found himself lingering, hoping for a moment alone with Rin. But she was quickly surrounded by other staff members, all clamoring for her attention. With a sigh of disappointment, Michael headed for the door. He needed sleep, a shower, and time to clear his head. But as he reached for the panel to open the door, a familiar voice called out behind him, "Michael, wait up!" He turned to see Rin jogging towards him, her hair slightly disheveled from the long night. She looked, if possible, even more beautiful than usual. "I thought we could grab a coffee," she said, slightly breathless. "You know, to decompress after all that excitement." Michael hesitated. Every instinct told him this was a bad idea, that he should maintain professional boundaries. But the way Rin was looking at him, with those mesmerizing violet eyes. "Sure," he heard himself say. "Coffee sounds great." As they walked side by side down the corridor, their hands brushing occasionally, Michael realized that his life on this station was about to get a whole lot more complicated. And despite his better judgment, he couldn't wait to see what happened next. The station's artificial night cycle cast long shadows in the med bay as Michael made his rounds. The soft hum of medical equipment and the occasional beep of monitors were the only sounds breaking the eerie silence. He suppressed a yawn, glancing at his chronometer. Only 3 more hours until his shift ended. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Rin emerged from her office, and Michael felt his breath catch in his throat. Something was different about her. Her blue skin seemed to emit a soft, ethereal glow, and her movements were more fluid, almost hypnotic. "Rin?" he called out, concern creeping into his voice. "Everything okay?" She turned to face him, and Michael's heart rate spiked. Her violet eyes blazed with an otherworldly intensity, seeming to pierce right through him. "Michael," she purred, her voice lower and more melodious than usual. "I've never felt better." She glided towards him with feline grace, each step deliberate and sensual. He swallowed hard, trying to maintain his composure. "You look different. Are you sure you're all right?" Rin laughed, a sound like tinkling crystals. "Oh, I'm more than all right, but I do need your help with something." Before Michael could respond, the station shuddered violently. Alarms blared to life, red emergency lights bathing the med bay in an eerie glow. "What the hell?" Michael shouted over the cacophony. Another tremor rocked the station, sending medical supplies crashing to the floor. Michael lost his footing, stumbling forward. Rin caught him, her surprisingly strong arms wrapping around his torso. "We need to get to safety," she said, her breath hot against his ear. They raced towards the exit, but a loud groaning of metal stopped them in their tracks. A section of the ceiling collapsed, blocking their path. "This way," Michael yelled, grabbing Rin's hand and pulling her towards an emergency hatch. They squeezed through the small opening, finding themselves in a narrow maintenance corridor. The door slammed shut behind them with a pneumatic hiss, cutting off the sound of the alarms. In the sudden silence, Michael became acutely aware of how close Rin was standing. Her body radiated heat, and that strange glow seemed even more pronounced in the dim emergency lighting. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his eyes roving over her for any signs of injury. Rin shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "No, I'm fine. Thanks to you." Michael's comm unit crackled to life. "Attention all personnel. We've experienced a critical failure in the station's power core. Emergency protocols are in effect. Please remain in your current locations until further notice." "Looks like we're stuck here for a while," Rin said, her voice oddly calm given the circumstances. Michael nodded, trying to focus on the situation at hand and not on the way Rin's uniform clung to her curves. "We should try to find a way to contact the bridge. Let them know where we are." He turned to examine the corridor, looking for any kind of communication panel. Behind him, he heard Rin's soft footsteps approaching. "Michael," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Life's too short to deny what we feel." He whirled around to find her mere inches away, those mesmerizing violet eyes locked onto his. The air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. "Rin, we can't," he protested weakly. "We're colleagues. It's not professional." She silenced him by placing a finger against his lips. "Do you really care about being professional right now?" Michael's resolve crumbled. In one fluid motion, he pulled Rin against him, crushing his lips to hers. She responded with equal fervor, her hands tangling in his hair as she pressed herself closer. The kiss was everything Michael had imagined and more. Rin's lips were soft yet insistent, and she tasted of something exotic and intoxicating. He lost himself in the sensation, the danger of their situation forgotten. When they finally broke apart, both gasping for air, Michael's head was spinning. "That was overdue," Rin finished, a mischievous glint in her eye. Before Michael could respond, another violent tremor shook the station. They stumbled, Michael instinctively wrapping his arms around Rin to steady her. "We need to find a way out of here," he said, reluctantly releasing her. Rin nodded, her expression turning serious. "Agreed. There should be an access panel somewhere that leads to the Jeffries tubes. We might be able to make our way to the secondary control room from there." They began searching the corridor, hands running along the walls for any hidden latches or panels. Michael tried to focus on the task at hand, but he couldn't shake the lingering sensation of Rin's lips on his. "Found it," Rin called out triumphantly. She had located a small hatch near the floor, almost invisible unless you knew what to look for. Michael hurried over, helping her pry open the panel. A narrow tunnel stretched out before them, barely wide enough for one person to crawl through. "Ladies first," he offered with a wry smile. Rin rolled her eyes but grinned back. "Such a gentleman." She dropped to her hands and knees and began crawling into the tube. Michael followed, trying and failing not to notice how the tight space accentuated Rin's assets. "Focus," he chided himself. Lives could be at stake. They crawled for what felt like hours, the only sounds their labored breathing and the occasional groan of the station's stressed superstructure. Michael's arms and knees ached from the awkward position, and sweat dripped into his eyes. Finally, Rin called back, "I think I see light ahead." Sure enough, a faint glow was visible at the end of the tunnel. They quickened their pace, hope lending them renewed energy. As they neared the exit, another violent tremor rocked the station. Michael heard a sharp crack, and suddenly the tube beneath him gave way. He plummeted through the opening, a startled yell escaping his lips. His fall was abruptly halted as something caught his wrist in a vice-like grip. Looking up, he saw Rin, her face contorted with effort as she held onto him with one hand while bracing herself against the tube's walls with the other. "I've got you," she grunted. "Don't let go." With a strength that belied her slender frame, Rin began to pull Michael up. He scrabbled for purchase, his feet finding a ledge in the jagged hole. Together, they managed to haul him back into the tube. They lay there for a moment, panting heavily, bodies pressed close in the narrow space. "Thank you," Michael gasped. "You saved my life." Rin's eyes met his, filled with an intensity that took his breath away. "I wasn't about to let you go that easily." The double meaning in her words wasn't lost on Michael. He opened his mouth to respond, but Rin was already moving, crawling towards the exit with renewed determination. They emerged into what appeared to be a storage room, dimly lit by emergency backup power. Crates and containers were strewn about, evidence of the station's violent shaking. "We need to get to a computer terminal," Rin said, already moving towards a door on the far side of the room. "Find out what's really going on out there." Michael nodded, following close behind. As they reached the door, he placed a hand on Rin's arm, stopping her. "Rin, about what happened back there, in the corridor." She turned to face him, her expression softening. "Michael, I meant what I said. Life's too short for regrets. Whatever's happening to this station, whatever happens next, I don't want to pretend anymore." He searched her eyes, seeing nothing but sincerity and a depth of emotion that both thrilled and terrified him. "I don't want to pretend either," he admitted. "But what does this mean for us? For our work?" Rin's lips curved into a smile. "Why don't we focus on surviving this crisis first? Then we can figure out the rest." As if to punctuate her words, another tremor shook the room. Containers toppled from shelves, crashing to the floor around them. "Agreed," Michael said, his hand finding Rin's and squeezing it tight. "Let's go save this station." They stepped through the door into a corridor bathed in the eerie red glow of emergency lighting. Sparks flew from damaged conduits, and the acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. "Secondary control room should be 2 levels up," Rin said, her eyes scanning for a route through the chaos. They made their way carefully through the debris-strewn hallways, helping each other over fallen beams and around sparking panels. Every few minutes, another tremor would rock the station, each one seeming more violent than the last. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of panicked crew members. "Doctors!" one of them cried out. "Thank the stars! We've got injured back in the mess hall. Can you help?" Michael and Rin exchanged a quick glance. Their mission to reach the control room was vital, but they couldn't ignore their duty as medical professionals. "Lead the way," Michael said decisively. The mess hall was a scene of chaos. Tables and chairs were overturned and several crew members lay on the floor, nursing various injuries. Michael and Rin sprang into action, their earlier tension momentarily forgotten as they fell back on their training. They moved from patient to patient, assessing injuries and providing what treatment they could with their limited supplies. As Michael finished setting a crewman's broken arm, he glanced over at Rin. She was bent over a young ensign, her hands glowing with a soft blue light as she used some kind of alien healing technique. The sight was mesmerizing. Rin's face was a mask of concentration, her blue skin seeming to pulse with energy. The ensign's wounds visibly closed under her touch. When she finished, Rin swayed slightly, exhaustion evident on her face. Michael was at her side in an instant, steadying her. "That was incredible," he murmured. "But it clearly takes a lot out of you." Rin nodded, leaning against him for support. "It's not something I can do often, but in emergencies." Their moment was interrupted by a loud crash from the corridor outside. The door to the mess hall buckled inward, metal groaning under some immense pressure. "Everyone back!" Michael shouted, pulling Rin with him as they retreated to the far side of the room. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke and debris, a massive form lumbered into view. It was some kind of alien creature, easily 8 feet tall with mottled green skin and multiple writhing tentacles. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural red light, and a guttural growl emanated from somewhere in its bulk. "What the hell is that thing?" someone screamed. Rin's grip on Michael's arm tightened. "It's a Zeraxian berserker," she whispered, her voice tight with fear. "They're supposed to be extinct. How did it get on the station?" The creature's head swiveled towards them, drawn by the sound of Rin's voice. It let out a deafening roar and charged. Michael's mind raced. They were trapped in the mess hall with injured crew members and no weapons. How were they going to survive this? As the Zeraxian bore down on them, time seemed to slow. Michael felt Rin's hand slip into his, their fingers intertwining. He turned to look at her, seeing a mixture of fear and determination in those violet eyes he'd come to adore. In that moment, facing down an impossible threat, Michael realized something with crystal clarity. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges they faced, he wanted to face them with Rin by his side. The Xeraxian was mere feet away now, its tentacles lashing out towards them. Michael tensed, ready to push Rin out of harm's way. But before the creature could strike, a blinding flash of light filled the room. The Xeraxian stumbled, roaring in pain and confusion. Through the spots dancing in his vision, Michael saw a figure step through the ruined doorway. They were clad in some kind of advanced armor, wielding a weapon that crackled with energy. "Sorry I'm late to the party," a familiar voice called out. "Looks like you could use a hand." As his vision cleared, Michael's jaw dropped in disbelief. Standing before them, looking for all the world like a futuristic knight in shining armor, was his old friend and former colleague, Dr. Sarah Chen. "Sarah," he gasped, "what are you doing here? How did you—" "No time for explanations now," Sarah cut him off, her weapon trained on the disoriented Xeraxian. "We need to get everyone to safety. There's a lot more going on here than you realize." As if to emphasize her point, another violent tremor shook the station. Alarms blared with renewed urgency. "Warning," the station's AI intoned. "Hull breach detected in sectors 7 through 12. Emergency force fields failing. All personnel evacuate immediately." Michael looked at Rin, then back at Sarah. He had a sinking feeling that their night was about to get a whole lot more complicated. "What do we do now?" he asked, bracing himself for whatever insanity was coming next. Sarah's expression was grim behind her helmet's faceplate. "Now? Now? We save this station, and maybe the entire galaxy while we're at it." The Xeraxian began to stir, its massive form rising once more. Sarah raised her weapon, energy crackling along its length. "You two with me?" she asked. Michael felt Rin's hand squeeze his. He met her gaze, seeing his own mix of fear and excitement mirrored in her eyes. "We're with you," Rin answered for both of them. As the Xeraxian charged once more and the station shuddered around them, Michael couldn't help but think that this was definitely not what he had signed up for when he took this assignment. But with Rin by his side and a mystery unfolding before them, he wouldn't have it any other way. The battle for Orbital Medical Station Alpha, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy, was about to begin. The Xeraxian's roar shook the mess hall as it charged towards them. Sarah's weapon discharged, a bolt of crackling energy slamming into the creature's chest. It stumbled but didn't fall. "Move!" Sarah shouted, backing towards the exit. Michael and Rin sprang into action, helping the injured crew members to their feet. They fled the mess hall, the Xeraxian's enraged bellows echoing behind them. "Where are we going?" Michael panted as they raced through the corridors. Sarah took point, her armor's sensors scanning for threats. "Secondary control room. We need to stabilize the station and initiate emergency protocols." Another violent tremor rocked the station. Michael stumbled, but Rin's steady hand caught him. Her touch sent a jolt through him, even in the midst of chaos. They reached the control room to find it in disarray. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the main view screen flickered ominously. "Rin, see what you can do about the life support systems," Sarah ordered. "Michael, help me with the power grid." They worked frantically, fingers flying over keyboards as they fought to keep the station from tearing itself apart. Michael marveled at how seamlessly he and Rin worked together, anticipating each other's needs without a word. A proximity alarm blared. The Xeraxian had found them. "Keep working," Sarah shouted, raising her weapon. "I'll hold it off." The door exploded inward. Sarah opened fire, energy bolts peppering the creature's hide. It roared in pain and fury, tentacles lashing out. One tentacle caught Sarah's leg, yanking her off her feet. Her weapon clattered to the floor, skidding towards Michael. Without hesitation, he scooped up the unfamiliar device. It hummed to life in his hands, responding to his touch. "Hey, ugly!" he yelled, drawing the Xeraxian's attention. The creature's red eyes locked onto him. Michael's finger tightened on the trigger, and a burst of energy erupted from the weapon. It caught the Xeraxian square in the face, and the beast howled in agony. Rin's voice cut through the chaos. "Michael, the airlock." He understood immediately. With the Xeraxian momentarily stunned, Michael darted to a nearby console. His fingers flew over the controls, overriding safety protocols. The airlock door slid open with a hiss. The sudden decompression caught the Xeraxian off guard. It scrabbled for purchase, but the vacuum was too strong. With a final furious roar, it was sucked out into the void of space. Michael slammed his hand on the emergency seal, and the airlock snapped shut. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Rin was in his arms, her body pressed against his. "That was incredible," she breathed. He wanted nothing more than to kiss her then and there, but Sarah's groan brought them back to reality. "Nice work, you two," she said, struggling to her feet. "But we're not out of the woods yet." As if on cue, the station's AI spoke. "Warning, critical system failure imminent. Station-wide evacuation recommended." "Damn it," Sarah cursed. "We need more time." Rin's eyes lit up. "The quantum stabilizers in Medical Bay 3. If we can reroute power through them, it might buy us a few hours." Michael nodded. "I'll go. You two keep working here." "No way," Rin said firmly. "We stick together." There was no time to argue. They raced through the deteriorating station, dodging falling debris and sparking conduits. Michael's heart pounded, but whether from exertion or Rin's proximity, he couldn't say. They reached Medical Bay 3 to find it in chaos. Equipment floated freely, untethered in the failing artificial gravity. "There!" Rin pointed to a sleek device pulsing with blue light. Working together, they managed to disconnect the quantum stabilizer and hook it into the station's power grid. The effect was immediate. The violent shaking subsided, and the alarms quieted to a dull whine. "We did it," Michael said, allowing himself a moment of relief. Rin's answering smile was radiant. "We make a good team." The double meaning in her words wasn't lost on him. Their eyes met, and suddenly the rest of the universe seemed to fade away. Michael leaned in, drawn by an irresistible force. Rin met him halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that sent electricity coursing through his body. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Michael rested his forehead against hers. "Rin, incoming transmission," the AI interrupted. "Origin, Earth Central Command." Reality came crashing back. They hurried to the nearest comm panel where Sarah's face appeared on the screen. "Good work, you two," she said. "We've managed to stabilize the station for now, but we've got bigger problems. That Xeraxian was just the beginning. We've detected a fleet of unknown vessels approaching Earth. Whatever's happening, it's clear that Orbital Medical Station Alpha is ground zero." Michael's mind reeled. How had a routine medical assignment turned into this? "What do we do now?" he asked. Sarah's expression was grim. "Now? We prepare for war." The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The station became a hub of frantic preparations as Earth's defense forces mobilized. Through it all, Michael and Rin worked side by side, stealing moments together whenever they could. Late one night, as they lay tangled in sheets in Michael's quarters, Rin traced patterns on his chest with her blue fingers. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. Michael sighed, pulling her closer. "That I never expected any of this when I took this assignment. The alien invasion, the impending war, you." Rin propped herself up on an elbow, her violet eyes searching his face. "Do you regret it?" He cupped her cheek, marveling at the softness of her skin. Not for a second. Their lips met in a tender kiss, but before it could deepen, an alarm blared. "All personnel report to battle stations," the AI announced. "This is not a drill." They sprang into action, donning their uniforms with practiced efficiency. As they raced towards the medical bay, Michael caught Rin's hand. "Whatever happens," he said, "we face it together." Her answering smile was fierce and beautiful. Together. The following hours were a chaotic blend of triage and terror. Injured crew members and soldiers poured into the medical bay as the battle raged outside. Michael and Rin worked tirelessly, their movements synchronized, anticipating each other's needs without a word. Finally, as the tide of casualties began to ebb, Sarah's voice came over the comms. "We've done it. The alien fleet is in retreat." A cheer went up throughout the station. Michael sagged against a biobed, exhaustion hitting him like a physical force. Rin was at his side in an instant, her arm slipping around his waist. "Come on," she said softly. "I want to show you something." She led him through the corridors to a part of the station he'd never visited before. A door slid open, revealing a small observatory. The view took Michael's breath away. Earth hung suspended in the void, a blue marble wrapped in swirling clouds, and beyond, the vast expanse of stars stretched to infinity. Rin's skin seemed to glow in the starlight, more beautiful than ever. She turned to face him, her expression serious. "Michael," she said, "I can't pretend anymore. What's between us? It's more than just attraction." His heart raced. "I feel it too." She took a deep breath. "But are you really ready for this? To risk everything for a relationship with someone from another world?" Michael didn't hesitate. He pulled her close, one hand cupping her face. "Rin, I'd risk everything for you. You've opened my eyes to a whole new universe. Whatever challenges we face, I want to face them with you by my side." Tears glimmered in Rin's violet eyes. "I was hoping you'd say that." Their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. When they finally parted, they turned to gaze out at the stars, hands intertwined. "So," Michael said with a grin, "what's next for us?" Rin laughed, the sound like music. "Well, I hear there's a lovely little planet in the Andromeda Galaxy that's perfect for honeymoons." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Is that a proposal, Dr. Rin?" She bumped her hip against his playfully. "Maybe. Think you can handle married life with an alien?" "Bring it on," he chuckled, pulling her close. As they stood there, Earth turning slowly beneath them and the vastness of space stretching out before them, Michael knew that whatever the future held, it would be an adventure beyond his wildest dreams. And he wouldn't have it any other way. Hey there, intergalactic romantics and sci-fi aficionados. Well, that was quite a ride, wasn't it? From medical emergencies to alien invasions, with a healthy dose of blue-skinned beauty thrown in for good measure. I'll be honest, crafting a story like this was about as familiar to me as a Klingon in a knitting circle. So if you found yourself thinking, what in the name of Spock's eyebrows is going on here? Join the club. This tale was my attempt to boldly go where I haven't gone before. See what I did there? I figured, why not shake things up a bit? After all, variety is the spice of life, or, as the Freeman might say, the melange of storytelling. I appreciate you sticking with me through this cosmic love story. Your patience is more impressive than the Millennium Falcon making the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Remember, folks, in the grand tapestry of the universe, a little experimentation never hurt anybody, unless you're Dr. Jekyll, of course, or Bruce Banner. You know what? Bad examples. Let's just say I'm trying my best to keep you entertained. So whether you loved it, hated it, or are still trying to figure out if this was all just a fever dream induced by too much Romulan ale, thanks for tuning in. Your support means more to me than a triple-breasted whore from Eroticon 6. Bonus points if you got that reference. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. And don't forget your towel.